Waiting, waiting, waiting. All right. Think we are live now. Jax West from Justice with Jax, Stephen Avery Project, and MAM Gossip. We are live today to discuss yesterday's filing with the Wisconsin Supreme Court. So if anybody has any questions, comments, concerns, fire my way on what you're thinking about Kathleen's latest filing. Hello, Selena. So let me just say, while waiting, if anybody has anything they want to discuss. Hello, Caroline. This is nothing unexpected. This is just the way our system in the States works. So when she files something with whatever new evidence she's using at that time, you have to go through all the different levels, all the different courts, and exhaust that, and then start all over again with new evidence. So I've seen some people post when people have asked, what does this mean? It does not mean that Stephen is almost out of options, that all he has left is the United States Supreme Court, and then if that's denied, then he's done. No, because she's got other evidence that, she just has to start all over again on the lower courts. And I go over this every time, but it is something that people need to be aware of, that Kathleen getting ruled against, and this taking so long, this doesn't mean bad things on Stephen's case. This is just the way it works. And I have to remind everybody how Kathleen says that it typically takes her 15 years to overturn a wrongful conviction, and she's only been on the case since 2016. So it's just is what it is. And yes, Paula, this is due to the Wisconsin Appeals Court denying. She now has to go to the Wisconsin Supreme Court and go, want you to overturn what the lower court said. So this is nothing to be alarmed about. I mean, it is typical that, you keep just expecting denials, because that's how crappy our system is here. That Kathleen has so much evidence that shows Stephen is innocent. And I've seen people also say things like they doubt Kathleen because in her different filings she has pointed to different people as possibly being Teresa Halbach's killer. But see, it is not Kathleen's job to prove who did it. So her saying in one brief, Ryan Hilgas this, and saying in another brief, Stephen's brothers that, and then in another, Bobby Dassey this, she's just showing that there's other people that should have and should be looked at. And that this case zeroed in and focused on Stephen immediately. So she is showing reasonable doubt, as Luke's talking about. So reasonable doubt. And then also showing Stephen did not get a fair trial. So, but as more and more time goes by, and Kathleen has more experts, does more testing, more scientific results, everything keeps pointing at Bobby Dassey. And so her filings lately are all pointing at Bobby. But again, she does not have to prove Bobby did anything. That's not her job. Her job is to show that Stephen is not guilty without a shadow of a doubt. So in this filing, she was really spotlighting the errors that the other court did in their response. It was really pretty ridiculous. And one of the things that she did not spotlight, but was when I first read the response, the thing that jumped out at me, that bothered me, is in giving the bones to the Halbach family and them saying, well, it would be done because, the Halbachs would want closure. What are you talking about, closure? When this was done in 2011, so Teresa Halbach went missing on Halloween of 2005. Stephen was prosecuted, found guilty in 2007, and it's 2011 that they're giving the bones back. And I shouldn't even say that. See, I don't even like the wording of that phrase, giving the bones back, because according to what Kratz prosecuted Stephen on, those bones, that pelvic bone and any other bones that were found at the Manitowoc gravel pit, was not Teresa Halbach. So why would these go to the Halbach family? Why would this be closure? And why are you giving evidence away without notifying Stephen or his attorneys? Michelle, I see you're saying can't see comments, but I see your comments, so you are here. Just so you know. Stephen was prosecuted on Kratz's fantasy that Stephen never left the salvage yard. So there would not be anything from this alleged crime at the Manitowoc gravel pit. But the court is saying, oh, it's no big deal that the state gave that evidence away because the Halbach family would want closure. I'm not understanding how that would be closure if that's not Teresa Halbach. And why would they be entitled to it? They're just entitled to evidence from Stephen's case? Knowing full well science is ever evolving, and that's what freed Stephen the first time after 18 years was DNA. And so you're going to get rid of bones that can be scientifically tested, that could at some point show what really happened to Teresa? Maybe. Because we still don't know what really happened to Teresa Halbach. And also stating like fact that any of the bones, period, are Teresa. There is nothing to prove that. And even going beyond that they don't have evidence that shows that, when you're going to use people like big hair Sherry Culhane and Eisenberg, that's her name, right? Who have shown on multiple cases that they are not to be trusted and their findings are suspect. Anything that comes from those people is not to be believed. It's the little boy who cried wolf. I can't believe you. Yeah, I understand it. I agree with you, Andrea. Bones wouldn't give me any closure. Um, Closure would know what happened to her, and I'm gonna guess we're never gonna know unless Bobby Dassey or Scott Taddock ends up needing to clear their conscience and say what happened. We just don't know. And for the court to say it was okay to just give this evidence to this family bothers me, because the state had agreed with had a deal with Zellner that will let you test these bones as well as the RAV. I don't understand why they can keep that evidence, why Kathleen cannot test the RAV. Well, I understand why. The state wouldn't want her to, because they're covering up lies. So let's get that straight right there. But I don't understand legally how it is not able that the state is enforced to give it to the defense to do their own independent testing. And if the state is truly supposed to be about justice and facts and truth, shouldn't you be okay with the defense running their own tests using their own money and doing that? Because all you should be caring about is what actually happened to Teresa Halbach, and whoever truly did it is being held accountable for it. So you don't have another Gregory Allen that, while Stephen is put away for 18 years, is out raping and assaulting other women. So you should want independent testing done. And the only reason I can see with fighting it so hard is because your whole case is a lie. And you're covering for your thin blue line. So these deputies lied, so we're going to help cover for them. Who knows what really happened to Teresa and what that person has done since then. Stephen has always said he's going where the facts lead, whether it's family or it's not. Kathleen Zellner is going to go where science and facts leads. I actually have complete faith that if Kathleen came across any evidence to show that not just Stephen, any client she has is guilty, she would drop that case and she would expose it due to what happened to her previously. That's why she has made the decision that she will not represent anybody unless she knows they're innocent. She doesn't want to defend a guilty person and free a guilty person like she did before. So a lot of what the court in their decision, it was just mind-boggling. And something else that Kathleen pointed out that is really pretty brilliant. I mean, do I need to say that, Kathleen and brilliant, because it goes hand in hand. And no, I'm not just fangirling or kissing her ass or anything like that, because if I felt Kathleen was doing a Smurfy job, I would tell you. But Bobby Dassey testified he was the only one home that day. And that day is when the family computer, if you want to call it that, was looking up disgusting stuff. So his own testimony said he was the only one home. Yet, Stephen's family likes to try and blame Stephen for what Bobby put on the computer. Could have been Stephen. It could have been Barb's husband number 2, Scott Toddock's cousin, Tom Yonda. They could have done it. No, it's not Bobby. And the more they defend and cover up for Bobby, the more they're keeping Stephen and Brendan in prison. Yet want to pretend like they're these big supporters because they're just trying to fleece the supporters out of money and attention. But I digress. Bobby's the only one home. He testifies to that. He's the one that works that night shift and is home during the day. Brendan and Blaine are at school. Barb is at work. Tom Yonda wasn't living there any longer. Scott Toddock, who Barb was having an affair with, didn't live there. Brian Dassey mostly stayed at his girlfriend's house and works. Bobby's the only one home, and he testified he was home alone. And that stuff was on the computer. The computer that Kratz, Sweaty Sweat Sweat, claimed was Brendan's computer. And Telstra and Buting, oh, there was nothing of importance on Brendan's computer. And they just listened to him and didn't do their own investigation on the computer. That's ineffective assistance of counsel. They already knew how shady Kratz was due to that press conference when he told his wild fantasy of what happened to Teresa Halbach, claiming these are things that he learned from Brendan. So, I mean, you don't have to be basically a lawyer to know this is textbook ineffective assistance of counsel. They listened to what the state said and didn't investigate it for themselves. And Kratz was really covering up that it was whatever. Play your semantics and your word games. It's not Bobby's computer. It was the family's computer. Whatever. Don't care. It was in Bobby's room. There is evidence of the Manitowoc's own picture that the computer was in Bobby's room. But even if, because yes, all right, the computer had moved around over the years in the house. Even if it's not in Bobby's room, I don't care if it's in the bathroom, if it's in the kitchen, if it's in the living room. I don't care where that computer is. When it is being used on that day and searching those nasty things, Bobby is the only one home. Bobby is the one that used the computer and searched those things. And if they had found those kinds of things on Stephen's computer, bet your ass they would have used that against him in court, trying to make that out that he's a murderer because those things are on his computer. But when they're on Bobby's computer, nothing is done to him. Nothing at all. Bobby's able to buy a nice house, couple houses. Bobby has more than one house. Bobby's able to get married, have children. No worries. We don't care that that stuff's on his computer. That he had a file titled Teresa, a file with RAV4, or it just said RAV, not 4, RAV, children being raped and beheaded. Oh, it's okay. It's okay. We're not going to worry about that at all. Let's focus on Steven's got pink fuzzy handcuffs. So that must mean that he shackled a girl to his bed. That then there are no marks on the bed, no marks on the handcuffs, none of Teresa's DNA in the trailer. Nothing. It's so clear that Steven did not get a fair trial. They have not proven him guilty beyond a shadow of a doubt. The jury was fixed by having not one, but two people who worked for the Manitowoc County Sheriff's Department on his jury. They stacked the jury pool so much so that, according to Buting, when I talked to him at Brendan's hearing at the Seventh Circuit in Chicago, when I questioned him on why would you let Carl Wardman on that jury? They're only allowed so many strikes, and they got rid of people they thought were worse than that guy. I don't know what's worse than Carl Wardman. So they stacked that jury pool that there was no way that Steven would get a not guilty verdict. The best he could hope for is a hung jury. But how is he going to get a hung jury when you have a juror like Richard Mahler, who did not believe Steven was guilty, and all of a sudden, at the end of the case, his daughter, his stepdaughter, gets in a car accident that Manitowoc is on the scene like right away. And then Richard Mahler asks to be dismissed from the jury because his stepdaughter got hurt. So his only hope for a holdout to vote not guilty, his stepdaughter, is hurt. Something else pointed out in the filing yesterday is that Steven was found not guilty of mutilation of a corpse. So therefore, if Steven didn't do it, then that means somebody planted the bones in his fire pit. Because they want to say this jury is all-knowing and they found him guilty. Jury says he's guilty, so he's guilty. Well, that same smurfing jury said he didn't mutilate a body. So then how is she in his burn pit if he didn't do it? If he didn't mutilate her body, who did, and why is it on his property? Remember, there's no Brendan in Steven's case because Brendan had already taken back everything they forced him to say. So they did not want Brendan to testify in Steven's case. Carol Ann says, Buting tweeted, let me read it. For those wondering what happens next in Avery's appeal, state's response to petition for review due in 14 days. Wisconsin Supreme Court has no time limit to decide whether to review. If review granted, more briefs and oral argument. If review denied, federal habeas is next. Thank you, Carol Ann. And Christopher, if you're watching, or any other moderators, if you could post that on Stephen Avery Project, I'd appreciate it. Or else I can do it when I'm done with this live. So it totally defies everything when the jury says he did not mutilate a body, but the bones are, her body is mutilated, and they're saying Stephen didn't do it. So then who did? Now, the thing that I know is that it was reported by jury members that they did not believe Stephen was guilty. But that jury room was so contentious, they felt bullied into having to say Stephen was guilty. So, what deal was made by the jurors is we will say guilty on this one and not guilty on that one. And so for the jurors who didn't believe he was guilty, they felt that this would trigger a new trial. Because how can he be found guilty of the murder but not guilty of what happened to her body? So that's what they were hoping for. But it just doesn't work because everybody is in on it that Stephen has to be guilty. And you've got the actual people that he was in the process of suing for his wrongful conviction are the ones that found all the alleged evidence, who a judge had ruled that they were not to be part of it. They were only being brought in because they needed some extra hands, but they weren't supposed to be the ones actively doing the work. So you've got Lenk and Colborn all over this case. Lenk and Colborn all over the Bernstein case. Lenk and Colborn, Lenk and Colborn. Here's the key. Here's the magic bullet. The key, which is another thing that is so bothersome to me, is not her main key. It's the spare key, the valet key, whatever you want to call it. You can Google RAV4 key and you will see the main key that you use is shaped differently than the one they found. It is not her main key. You can go to StephenAveryCase.org. You can look up the testimonies of Thomas Pierce, who owned the photography studio that Teresa worked at, and then her friend, I don't recall her name, but Teresa had just gone on a vacation with her in August. Both of these people testified. I'm not just saying this. This is in their testimony that Teresa was very paranoid about losing keys. So when she went on vacation with the friend, the big joke was made with her keys that they used like duct tape to make a lanyard or whatever for her keys because she's so scared of losing them. So if you are so scared of losing your keys, why would you have only your spare key with you? Where's her house key? Where's the photography studio key? Does she have a key to her parents' house that was next door? Where are all the keys? Where's the key fob? Was there a key fob for the RAV4? I don't recall now. I think there was. Where where are her keys? You can Google a picture of Teresa Halbach when she's standing in front of the RAV4 and she's holding her camera. You can see she's holding keys, plural, in her hand. You can also see in the evidence that Manitowoc had a key made to the RAV4. When you look at the magic key that all of a sudden turned up in Stephen's bedroom after how many searches, that Colborne is able to violently shake that bookcase that caused the key to come out the back, turn a corner, and land near his slippers, yet everything is still on the bookshelf, including change on top. Just as it was, they trashed the rest of the house. Open drawers, dump everything out, rip apart the walls, rip off carpeting, rip out plumbing. But that bookcase, after shaking it, we're going to put stuff back. We're going to put back these photo albums, these books. We're going to put them back in the right way. We're not just going to, if we are going to go to any effort to put anything back, we're not going to just shove them in there, not caring about anything. You put everything back all nicely. So this key that they find has no wear and tear on it. When Teresa Halbach basically drives for a living. And so the key is going in the ignition, out of the ignition, in the ignition, out of the ignition. Get out of your dirty mind, sir. No wear and tear on that key. Key's sparkling. Doesn't have Teresa's DNA on it. Who's grabbing onto that key all the time. But her DNA's not on it. Oh, but Stephen's is. As Kratz would say, his sweat. How is Stephen's DNA on there and no Teresa Halbach? Oh, maybe because you washed the key or you made the key. And then whatever you did that you wiped on there, his slippers, whatever. Andrea, sorry, squirrel. Andrea's been meaning to ask me, what is being done with Stephen's trailer now? Is it standing empty or does someone live there? No one lives there. It is, I don't know who technically owns it now because, Rollie Johnson died, because people forget that the trailer, the garage, and the land it sits on that Stephen and Jody lived in is not owned by the Avery family. Ellen Avery had sold that land to his friend Rollie Johnson, who wanted a place to park his hunting trailer. And that most things in that trailer, including the gun that Stephen was prosecuted on for being a felon in possession of a firearm, was Rollie's. Okay, wait, I'm going to continue on that before I read Carol Ann's because my mind is so bad and I'm going to lose track of where I was. So that trailer, they trashed it, destroyed it, whatever, and Rollie is given no compensation for it. They don't fix it. They don't do anything. And so it's just been sitting there deteriorating. And last weekend, when we just did the rally in Waupun. It's not Waupun like I always say. It's like Grey Poupon. Waupun. So, excuse me. On the Saturday, Bryce is also from Illinois, like I am, and he had never been to the salvage yard. And so when the rally was done, he was talking about that, and I'm like, all right, let's go. So he and I drove up there, and I did live videos from Stephen Avery Project. So if you didn't see them, that's where they're at, on Stephen Avery Project. So we went to the salvage yard, and they now have, there was a big RV that is parked in front of the trailer, so now you can no longer see it. But the nobody is doing anything with it, and I do not know who owns it now since Rolly, I can never remember how to say his name. I think it's Rolly. Since Rolly died. Um, but yeah, it's just sitting there. And then Carol Ann said another tweet from Buting. Based on past practice, Wisconsin Supreme Court decision whether it will hear Avery's appeal will probably be decided by end of year. Okay, so end of year. Ray, don't forget Manitowoc PD. Don't say PD. I always want to correct because the sheriff's department and the police department are two different entities. And the police department is not where anybody should focus any anger at. It's the Manitowoc Sheriff's Department. They absolutely told the coroner that she cannot be on the property and that she would be arrested, even though she is technically the ranking officer. She could arrest Link. Cindy says, oh my God, when we went there, my sister went right down the road all the way to the end. We did not go on Avery Road. She backed up all the way. But there's so much to be said for what was done to that coroner. And after watching Making a Murderer 1, I questioned it. But then when you see Making a Murderer 2 and you get to see and hear from the coroner herself, I feel so sad for her. Because coroners are the final voice for victims. So should be no loyalty to the state, to the to law enforcement, to even the family. Their loyalty is to the victim. And however you say her name, Deborah Katkich, it was clear her loyalty was to the victims and wanted to show what happened to the victim. And they knew she wouldn't lie for them and be a part of the plot to frame Stephen. So they had to keep her out. Carol Ann says Buting tweeted again. Whoops. Supreme Court of Wisconsin agrees to hear only a few criminal cases each year, but in my opinion, notoriety of Avery's case and strong grounds for the state's highest court to clarify law that applies to many other cases statewide gives him good chance for review in his case. So, Cindy, you probably would be fine. I'm the only one that's going to get arrested on Avery property. Just saying. And if you offered them money, even more so, you'd be fine. But then again, a couple of those Averys are quite rapey. So you never know. So now in Stephen's case, we wait. So we'll wait to hear what the state has to say about Kathleen's filing. And then we'll be waiting for the Supreme Court to rule. So there will be a lot of time that nothing is happening, and we're just waiting. But that's what this case always is. A lot of waiting. And if you think it's tough for you to have to wait, imagine being Stephen or Brendan. So if they can suck it up, so can we. We'll just continue doing what we always do. We're here supporting their innocence. And that's that. So, I wanted to discuss. So, we had our rally and the memorial last weekend. And thank you to those that came. Um, I'm not sure what we would be doing next year, but people reminded me. So now we had done the memorial on a Friday night because that's was Dolores's birthday. So Dolores's birthday next year is a Saturday. So August 20th is a Saturday next year. So what we will do exactly, don't know yet. We came up with some ideas. Christopher, Bryce, and I have all been discussing things to do. So we'll fill you in on that when it's time. Trespassing. Um, Again, I'm the only one that's going to get hit, as I have in the past with thumbs up, Nana, as Earl calls it, trespassing, where Earl wants to remind me that he allegedly rents the property in front of the salvage yard that the big Avery sign is on 147. So that he claims me going by the sign is me trespassing. But whatever. I was there. Nope, did not hear from Steven. I have not heard from Steven except that one time. The week after his mom passed when he gave me a call. So, haven't heard from him at all. So, what else was I going to discuss? Oh, so we've got stuff that's left over from the rally, and that an anonymous donor, wanted to do some kind of raffle item where the money would go into Stephen's commissary. And Christopher did just list that today with a picture of the stuff. So it's a scent warmer thing from Scentsy that's got angel wings and a heart on it. And then there are wax tarts that you melt in there. Some are from Christopher, and then some. Oh, wait, no. Those are soaps. Okay. So those are all from Christopher. Then there's also some bath bombs that are from Christopher. And there are some of the Dolores soaps that Christopher had donated. And then there is a supporter who was at the rally when she got married. She had given away these pink and white and purple soap hearts. And she had ones that were left over. And she's like, here, I'll donate this to the raffle item. So there are those. And then I threw in an extra large free Steven shirt and a mask and one of those fans we were using that's also a sign, a couple of the free Stephen Avery stickers. Is that everything? It's a whole bunch of stuff. But Christopher made a post that has a picture that I took of all the stuff, and then there's a listing of everything that's there. We are only doing it though for the states, because I don't know what it would cost to ship that stuff out of the United States, and I'm going to be covering the cost of shipping. So sorry, all of you around the world, that we can't include you in that raffle. But I have considered, I've still got the autographed Ferric book, and I've got an autographed Buting book. And I'm going to assume that wouldn't be that expensive to ship. So maybe we'll raffle off one of those books for you all. To buy raffle tickets, It's in the post, and I'm really bad with numbers, but it's like $5 for one ticket and $20 for five. Is that what it was? I don't know. You'll have to look at the post. And then you go to my Justice with Jax PayPal and pay that, and then pay there. And then on the date we chose, September 10th, is when I will draw a name at random, and that person will win the prize pack. And 100% of the money that comes in, I will put in Steven's commissary. And I will post pictures here in Gossip and show y'all, since I'm always doubted. Carol Ann says another Buting tweet. He says Zellner's petition for Supreme Court of Wisconsin review will preserve Avery's federal appeal rights on most issues if that court declines review. Good appellate lawyers must always preserve that longer remedy, but hope for faster relief. So, there you have it again from Buting. Was there anything else I was supposed to discuss today? I know, Natalie, we did talk about doing an MAM quiz night, and then it never happened. Because that was Christopher's idea, and he would have to come up with a quiz. I'm not doing that. I don't think I'm good enough to come up with it. So, okay, we should be hearing something in the next 2 weeks. When we hear in the next 2 weeks, we will go live and discuss that. If there is any other news that comes out, we will discuss that. I did go live on Stephen Avery Project yesterday and read the whole filing, Kathleen's filing yesterday. So if you want that, go to Stephen Avery Project into our videos. If you need to go over that, we also have the link posted of where you could go and read it yourself. And Kathleen would have it posted on her website as well, if that's an easier way for you to find it. So, more waiting. And just know there's a good chance, because this has been to the Wisconsin Supreme Court before, that it could be turned down or denied, whatever. It doesn't mean squat. Kathleen, I'm sure, has so much more that she can start all over again with. You know, we haven't even gotten into the newspaper delivery guy who saw Bobby Dassey planting the RAV4 on November 5th. The early morning before Pam Sturm of God found it. The day most of the Avery family was going to Crivets, including Stephen and Brendan. So much. So, all right, I guess I will call this to a close then. And stay tuned. Anything new that comes out, we will get it posted. If you find it before us, please send it our way. We've got, I guess this is commercial time. We've still got all these stickers that are in the Justice with Jax Etsy store. We just added 4 new ones yesterday. That I didn't bring any copies of them up here. If I was smart, I would have. There is one that says "Let's Slap Barb" that you all wanted. So go find that in the Etsy store. And I think that's everything for today. So if you find anything before we do, please send it our way. Thank you, everybody, for joining me. I'm going to go now do absolutely nothing, because here in Illinois, it is, I think, 1,000,000 degrees. So even though my air conditioning is on, I also have a fan that's on me right here, and still so warm. and tomorrow's supposed to be even worse. It's like miserable here. Um, so, all right. Investigation continues. Talk to y'all soon. Have a good weekend.